There is a land at the southern edge of India, where rivers meet the sea, and the sky has watched over the same soil for longer than memory itself. Somewhere here, in the dust, in the stone, in the silence between waves, a civilization was born. This is the story of the Tamils, and it is older than you think. The world is old, older than any book has ever recorded, long before empires rose, before cities had names, before anyone thought to carve a king's face into stone. The earth was already keeping its own quiet record. Every civilization we remember is only the last chapter of a much longer story. Egypt, Mesopotamia, the valleys of China. These are the names we grew up hearing. But there was another place. A place at the southern tip of a great subcontinent, where the land narrows into the sea and the wind carries the scent of salt and rain-soaked stone. Here, unseen by the world, a people were beginning. And the language they would come to speak still lives on the lips of 80 million people today. We tend to think of history as a story of kings, of empires, of great battles and treaties written in ink. But history does not begin with palaces. It begins with people, with a woman kneeling by a fire, teaching her daughter how to shape clay, with a boy standing at the edge of a field, watching his father test the soil with his fingers, with a hunter, alone in the forest at dawn, listening for the sound of something moving in the leaves. Long before there was writing, there was memory. Long before there were nations, there was family. Long before there were temples, there was the sky, and the stars, and the same restless human question. Who are we? Where did we come from? What is this place? The story of the Tamils begins here. Not in a throne room. Not in a chronicle. It begins in the ordinary silent lives of people we will never know by name. People whose only monument is the land itself. Tens of thousands of years ago, small groups of humans moved across the southern subcontinent. They followed the rivers. They sheltered in caves that still exist today, hidden in the hills of southern India, their walls streaked with soot from fires that burned when the last ice age was still ending. They hunted with sharpened stone. They gathered fruit from the forest. They watched the seasons turn, and slowly, over generations, they learned. They learned that certain seeds, if pushed into the earth, would return in the rains. They learned that certain stones, held to fire, could be shaped into blades. They learned that a low, patient sound made in the throat could carry across a valley and reach another human ear. This was the beginning of everything. Not a civilization yet. Not even a village. Just the first, quiet foundations, laid by people whose bones now lie somewhere beneath the paddy fields and quarries of southern India, forgotten by all but the earth. And yet, if you stand today in the hills near Acharampakam, or beside the ancient shelters that dot the landscape of the south, you are standing on ground that human hands have known for many tens of thousands of years. The Tamil land did not begin with the Tamils. It waited for them. Time passes. Rain falls, forests thin, rivers change their courses, and slowly the wanderers begin to stay. They plant the same field twice. They build shelters that last through a monsoon, then two, then a lifetime. They tame the cattle that once ran wild through the grasslands. They shape wet clay with their hands and set it beside the fire, and the fire hardens it into something new. A bowl, a pot, a vessel that can carry water from the river to the doorway of a home. This is a revolution as great as any that will follow. The first villages appear, small settlements of thatch and mud, gathered around a well or a stream. Children play in the dust. Women grind grain against flat stones. Men return from the fields in the last light of the day. The land takes on shape. Paths become roads. Roads meet at crossings. Crossings grow into markets. Markets grow into towns. Somewhere in this long, patient unfolding, across centuries no one thought to count, the people we now call the Tamils are being formed. Not by a single moment. Not by a single king. But by the slow, ordinary work of living, of remembering, of naming the world around them in words that will one day become one of the oldest living languages on Earth. In a quiet stretch of southern Tamil Nadu, near the banks of the Thamirabarani River, the earth once gave up a secret. Beneath layers of soil, archaeologists uncovered rows of clay urns, burial jars, some still holding the bones of the people who lived here nearly 3,000 years ago. Beside them lay iron tools, bronze figures, fragments of pottery painted with symbols we are only beginning to understand. This place is called Adichanallur, and every object pulled from its soil is a whisper from a world we have almost forgotten. The people buried here worked iron with skill. They cast bronze into small figures, a mother and child, an animal, a shape whose meaning we may never recover. They wore ornaments. They lived in an ordered community. They mourned their dead and returned them, carefully, to the earth. This was not a primitive settlement. It was a society, with craft, with belief, with a way of understanding life and death. And it existed, on this soil, nearly 3,000 years ago. Adichanallur is only one such place. There are others, some studied, some barely touched, some still waiting under the fields. Each one is a fragment of a lost world. Each one tells us the story of the Tamils reaches much further back than we once believed. And then, in the year 2015, a small village near Madurai gave the world something it did not expect. A team of archaeologists began digging in a coconut grove at a place called Keezhadi. What they found stopped them. Beneath the roots and the red earth, they uncovered the outlines of an entire town. Streets, laid out with intention. Walls of brick, plastered smooth. Workshops where craftsmen once shaped beads and cast metal. Drains and wells, showing a people who had thought carefully about how to live together. And on shards of clay, inscriptions, letters written in an early form of Tamil, a script now called Thamirabarani, fragments of names, fragments of words. The oldest of them may reach back more than 2,500 years, perhaps further. Keezhadi did not just add a chapter to the story of the Tamils. It changed the way we tell it. Here, in a quiet grove not far from Madurai, was proof. An early Tamil society, literate, organized, and thriving. Long before most of the histories we were taught ever began. And still, we do not know how far back this story truly reaches. Some researchers believe the roots go deeper, into the shadows of prehistory, into the long silence before writing began. Others say we cannot yet be certain, and that only the earth, patiently, will answer. Beneath the fields of Tamil Nadu, beneath the coconut groves and the paddy plains and the rivers that have flowed here for millennia, the past is still speaking. In broken pots, in buried streets, in the faint, dark ink of letters written before the Roman Empire had risen. The story of the Tamils is not finished. It is being uncovered, one fragment at a time. And every year, the ground itself reveals a little more of what was here before. This was only the beginning. In the coming episodes, we will travel further, into the deep past of southern India, into the first stirrings of the language, into the kingdoms that would one day rise from this land. We will meet the poets, the sailors, the temple builders, the ones who wrote in stone, and the ones whose names the stones forgot. This is Tamizheon, where history